you may have seen on Risk or at the Story Collider. He is a 2-time Moth Story Slam winner, and he is here for the very first time. So please give it up for Drew Prochaska.
So my dad had a book that he said changed his life. And that book was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So I, in my mid-20s, had a book that changed my life, and that book was called HTML for Dummies. And so, like, within a year of reading this book, I got a job in Silicon Alley, like on Lafayette and like Astor Place, and like I'm making like a shit ton of money all of a sudden, and I'm in charge of like this team of like 8 web developers, like at this internet sweatshop / cult of personality, run by this like giant enigmatic man named Hank. And like we would have to like we were working like around the clock, but like making bank, you know. And it was like the average age was like 23, and it like at 6 o'clock every evening, like the drawers would come open and everyone would just pull out their bongs, you know. And like the guys in the server room, I shit you not, were just doing rails of heroin off the servers. It was fucking crazy. It was like Wolf of Wall Street, but instead of like dwarf tossing, everyone would just get high and play Quake, you know. And anyway, so we were working around the clock for like 3 weeks straight, and I'm the production manager in charge of this team, and morale is low. Like nobody's like leaving and having a social life, and my guys, they're so like bummed out, and my boss Hank, he says, Drew, you got to find out like what we can do to raise morale. So I go to my team, I said, guys, what can I do? What can I do for you? And they're already making like a bunch of money and everything, and they're like, we haven't left here in 3 weeks, dude. I don't know. Can you get us laid? You know? And I was like, all right, whatever. So like I have to walk into Hank's office with my hands empty. I have no idea. And he's like, hey, Drew, so you know what's the big idea? And I'm like, we're gonna have to get these guys hookers, Hank. Ha ha. So anyway, like later that afternoon, I'm sitting at my computer, and there's just HTML like pouring out of my fingertips. And all of a sudden, the giant shadow of Hank passes over my desk, and this note lands in front of me. And he leans into my ear, and he says, tell no one. And I open up the note, and it says, Thursday, 4 p.m., and there's an address on Park Avenue, and there's a name, Leslie. And I thought, oh my God, Hank just bought me a prostitute. and I'm just seized up with like this panic. Like first of all, Hank, he thinks I'm like a hooker guy. I'm not a hooker guy. You know, like I'm not prude by any stretch. But like I don't even like strip clubs. Like they just seem like sad places where guys go because they have something they have to prove, you know. And like I look around like to my teams to see if they like got similar notes, but they're all gone because it's 4:20 in the afternoon and they're all getting high in the stairwell, you know. So I'm like, holy shit! Like what am I gonna do? Like I have no experience with a hooker, and I'm like, well, first of all, this is like one of those things like a rite of passage. Like I'm 25 years old, you know, like this is something that I'm supposed to do. Like this is, you know, so like I'd only had one experience with a prostitute, which happened only a few months before this. I was at a bachelor party and I was driving I was in a limousine with all of my friends, and the groom, like we were going through the meatpacking district in 1999 when it was actually a meatpacking district, and the groom like decided he wanted to get a prostitute. And like, I'm sorry, that actually happens. Like, it really happens. But I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So he tells the driver to pull up next to this streetwalker. And we're all just high as kites. Jesus Christ. We're all just high as kites in the back of this limousine. And we pull up next to this streetwalker, and the window just comes down. And then, like, immediately, like, this scabby Muppet head pops up in front of the window and goes, I'll suck out your dicks. And, like, I heard, like, this scream. All of a sudden, there's this scream, which I think came from my penis. But, like, all of a sudden, like, it's like a UFO landed behind us, and we're just bathed in these spinning red and blue lights as we hear this police megaphone say, gentlemen, get out of the car now. So that's the only experience I've had with a prostitute. You know, and so I'm terrified. Like I'm terrified because like it's just not who I am. You know, and so like I have like 2 days of just pure anxiety, and like I'm sitting at my desk, like just like I'm sure all the women that I'm friends with in my like they know. You know what I mean? Like they know, and like I can't sleep. I can't sleep because I'm just every thought I'm just consumed with these visions of Leslie and like in her 4-post bed covered with like scented lubricants and sex toys and and I just can't like I have so much I just can't I can barely breathe like thinking about this. So Thursday rolls around and it's 3 o'clock and I go into the bathroom at work and I just stand in front of the mirror and I just look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, this isn't me. You know, and I'm thinking, like, poor Leslie, you know, like she's gonna, you know, just poor, like, I should have worn a nicer shirt, you know, and so I psych myself up and I leave the office and I get on the train and I go to, it was like 22nd and Park or whatever, and I stand outside the building and I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm smoking a cigarette, and this old lady comes out of the building and she's walking her dog and she smiles at me like, "Hi, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like she has no fucking idea what I'm about to do. Like just feet away from where she talks to her grandkids on the phone, you know, and I walk into the building and I walk up to the doorman and he goes, "Where are you going?" And I said 13B, and he goes, "Leslie." And I'm like, he knows. Oh, and so I walk down the hallway to the elevators, and I'm like, this is where the bust happens, you know. This is where the men in the black riot gear rappel down the sides of the building and smash through the windows with their machine guns at the ready, you know. But it never happens. And I walk into the elevator, and I hit number 13, and the doors close, and I'm swooshed up the center of the building, and then I stops at 13, and there's this ding and a swoosh, and I'm deposited onto this red carpet. I walk down the hallway, and I find 13D, and then I look at my watch. It's 1999. We had watches, and I'm 3 minutes early, and I'm thinking, what's the protocol? Like, you know, like what if there's another John in there, you know? And he's like hopscotching around the room, like pulling up his pants, you know? Like it's 3 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and he's going to a prostitute. Like he's probably a real dirtbag. Like you don't want to rattle the cage of an ape like that, you know what I mean? And so I wait until it's time, and I knock on the door. And I see the eyepiece, and the eyepiece goes dark, and I can just imagine Leslie looking at me through the eyepiece, and just this weird, bobble-headed, sweaty freak. And the door opens. And the door opens, and there's this giant man in a bathrobe, and he looks down at me, and he says, "Are you Drew?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hi, I'm Leslie." And then like a minute later, I'm face down on a massage table with my face like, you know, in the little hole. And he is popping vertebrae in my back and like snapping bones. And I'm looking up like at all these massage degrees, just like humiliated, like of the horrible mistake I made. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of massage this is because it feels like German, you know. And this Cenobite is just ripping me apart. And I leave like an hour later, just fucking humiliated and really well tenderized. And I walk into the office, and I walk into the office just like what just happened? And Hank is at the other end of the room going like, ah, and I go and I just sit down in front of my computer and I start clacking away, and I just try to find that zone, you know, that comfortable zone where I'm just swimming in code, and I don't have to try so fucking hard to act like a man.
Comes the world